A series of unfortunate events. Venezuela. Venezuela declared its independence on July 5, 1811, but did not manage to kick the Spanish out until 1821 through the help of Simón Bolívar. Simón Bolívar led the independence wars against Spain in basically all of South America and formed La Gran Colombia. La Gran Colombia was a republic composed of Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, Panama, and parts of northern Peru, Brazil, and Guyana. La Gran Colombia's existence was marked by a division between those who believed in a decentralized form of government and those who believed in a centralized form of government. Venezuela was strongly in favor of a decentralized form of government, as they did not want to be ruled from Bogotá, and was led by this man, José Antonio Páez. José Antonio Páez began the secession movements against La Gran Colombia in 1826, and his revolt was known as La Cosiata.
During this time, Venezuela was also experiencing social reform on issues like that of slavery. In 1821, Simón Bolívar passed a Ley del Vientre, also known as the Law of the Womb, which freed all newly born Afro-Venezuelans that were born in the year 1821 or after. Simón Bolívar noticed that the efforts of the white people alone were not enough to free Venezuela from Colombia, and progressively started to free Afro-Venezuelans who would pledge their allegiance to the cause. This draws a parallel to Céspedes in Cuba during their time of revolution. In 1854, slavery was finally abolished all throughout Venezuela.
In 1828, Páez and Bolívar agreed to meet to draft a new constitution. These meetings took place in a region of Venezuela known as Ocaña, which is highlighted up in the map in red. At these meetings, Bolívar presented his ideas to unify Gran Colombia and come up with a constitution both sides could agree on. Páez did not agree with the new constitution at all and presented his ideas. In response, Bolívar stormed out of the convention and declared himself the dictator of Gran Colombia. In 1830, Páez declared Venezuela independent from La Gran Colombia and served as president from 1830 to 1835 and from 1839 to 1842. Páez was considered to be the most powerful man in Venezuela for almost 17 years.
By the late 40s, the party was able to force Páez out of power and the caudillo tradition prevailed. This leads to different rulers taking power from each other. Some people see this as a strength of military, but is actually a weak government that can't have the funding or faith from its people to support itself. After Venezuela separated from Gran Colombia, it was ruled by the caudillos. Caudillos were political military leaders at the head of an authoritarian government. José Antonio Páez was the most important one and was elected in 1831. He gained control of Venezuela until 1848. During his rule, the church lost its right not to be taxed, and in the early 1840s, the Liberal Party was created and it started to oppose Páez.
Over the next 10 years, the tension between the liberal and conservative parties in Venezuela builds up to what would be called the Federalist War. Competing against the independence of Venezuela for bloodiest war in Venezuela, the Federalist War, also known as the Great War, was a civil war that contained 5 years of bloodshed, famine, and disease, as well as numerous caudillos on both the conservative and liberal side. Aside from the tragedy of the war, the good that came from those caudillos included the creation of the national currency, el Bolívar, the building of the railroad from Caracas to La Guaira, the restoration of the national anthem, and the promotion of agriculture and education, all under Antonio Guzmán Blanco.